Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's second video, got all of the heat wave latest, and it's going to take us into the first week of August. So we've released JMA Friday. That was released earlier on today. You can find that video here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit. It's above the pollen count. And essentially we're looking at a lot of dry weather through the next month. Takes us into the sort of latter stages of August. A lot of dry weather coming up and really hot at times as well. So the long range JMA CFS beach models are seeing no sign of a change really in terms of a broad scale. Of course, could change for day by day, very briefly, but in terms of the anomalies over the month, looks like we continue really with the hot and dry summer weather. And of course, very hot across some parts of the country today, particularly in the far southeast. It's Furnace Friday, so I hope that you are enjoying, or maybe not, Furnace Friday and managing to stay cool. That's where we'll begin with the update this afternoon. So this is the highest temperature that I've seen reported so far. This was tweeted by the UK Met Office an hour ago. They were saying that it had reached 34.1 degrees Celsius at Tibenham Airfield. That's around 12 miles to the south of Norwich, I believe. So that's the highest temperature about an hour ago, but presumably it must have gone up more than that over the past hour. Keep an eye on the Met Office Twitter account. They'll let you know when or if that temperature goes up and what the highest temperature is overall for today. There was an idea earlier on today, but we might get to 37 degrees, 99 Fahrenheit, but I think that's very unlikely now. I don't think the temperature is rising quick enough to get to that sort of level. There's another 2.5 hours worth of warming still to go, so I reckon 35 is achievable again in the extreme southeast, possibly 36, but I'll be surprised if we get to 37, but we shall see. We'll know within the next couple of hours. This latest observation chart from xcweather.co.uk, so you can see the heat, the real heat, the extreme heat is in the extreme southeast. So Watchisham, for example, 33 degrees, going up to Norwich, 33 degrees there. Marham at 29, Cambridge is at 32, 90 Fahrenheit. Stansted at 32 degrees, 90 Fahrenheit. Gravesend at 33. Headcorn Aerodrome is at 32. So in the extreme southeast, we're kind of like low to approaching now mid-30s Celsius, well up into the 90s Fahrenheit. Actually, for other parts of the country, it isn't as hot as it was yesterday. Where I am, it isn't quite as hot today. Church Lawford, for example, in the Midlands, 27 degrees there, 81 Fahrenheit. It's very warm, too hot, but it's not the extreme heat that we had yesterday. Wittering is at 30 degrees, then just a little bit down on yesterday. Nottingham at 27 as well. Fairford at 26. So East Central is where it's very hot yesterday through the Midlands and going up towards Lincolnshire. Scampton at 29. Very hot yesterday in those areas. It's just a little bit lower than that today with the extreme heat of Furnace Friday in the extreme southeastern part of the country. Over across Ireland, it's we're on the other side of the cold front pretty much now. The cold front has arrived, so Lough Fee, temperature in Northern Ireland is at just 18 degrees Celsius, and going down into the Republic, we find that Oak Park, Carlow is at 19 degrees, over towards Shannon, 20 degrees there. So that's a sign of things to come. That air will be across the UK through the course of tomorrow, but just one more exceptionally hot day left down in the southeast part of the country. And not only hot, also there is a risk of thunderstorms. This is the latest radar picture from the Weather Outlook. So this rain that we've got across Ireland, both Republic and Northern Ireland, that is the cold front. That's bringing the change that we will all feel by this time tomorrow, with temperatures across eastern England potentially like 10 to 15 degrees Celsius lower than today. So it can take a while. I've been explaining this in the videos recently, where it has been so exceptionally hot in the southeast, it will take a while to radiate the heat out of the cities and the towns, because the ground, so like tarmac, brickwork, bricks, all of that kind of stuff, concrete, it kind of like pulls the heat in, and then it will gradually release it out, if you see what I mean. And there will be a lot of latent heat to get rid of within the buildings, within the bricks and the concrete over the next couple of days. So it will still probably be very warm down in the southeast tomorrow, but even with all of that, it'll only be sort of mid-20s Celsius at best, and you'll certainly feel a lot fresher. And further north and west, by Sunday, we are looking at a pretty cool day, to be honest, with temperatures into the teens Celsius. So that's where the cold front is. It's across Ireland. Just a few splashes of rain beginning to get in towards southwest England, parts of north and west Wales and western Scotland too. Otherwise, lots of dry weather. And then we've got these thunderstorms still left from overnight to this morning across the far northeast between York and Durham. A few thunderstorms rumbling around. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather at the moment across the east, allowing that heat to just build and build. But we have got a weather warning from the UK Met for thunderstorms through the course of this afternoon, and particularly in the southeast, where an amber warning has now been issued. So let's zoom in a little bit. This is where the weather warning is generally, where we've got this hatched yellow area. So it's kind of like from northeast England down the eastern side of the Pennines in towards the north and the East Midlands, and then down to London and the far southeast. That's where we've got a general weather warning for thunderstorms. But in this particular area just here, where it's amber, this is where we've got a higher risk of some really quite intense and violent thunderstorms. It's kind of like from the east of Peterborough over towards Norwich and over towards sort of East Anglia, that kind of area, going down to Ipswich and Colchester, and then up towards Lincolnshire, just to the south of Grimsby. In that area, we could see some very intense thunderstorms indeed. The UK Met Office is saying with this amber warning that thunderstorms are likely, flooding of homes, businesses is likely and could happen quickly, with damage to some buildings from floodwater, lightning strikes, hail and strong winds. Fast flowing or deep floodwater is likely, and that could cause a danger to life in those very flooded areas. Where flooding or lightning strikes occur, delays and some cancellations to train and bus services are likely. Spray and sudden flooding probably leading to difficult driving conditions and some road closures. Power cuts likely to occur, and other services to see homes and businesses could be lost. Some communities may become cut off if roads flood. So basically, it could all start to kick off big time in that southeastern corner through the course of this afternoon and into this evening. As we go through tonight, I'll just show you this. The weather warning does extend a little bit further northwards. So let's just come down to there. So the weather warning extends further northwards to eastern Scotland as well tonight. Not an amber warning, but a yellow alert has been issued for tonight and tomorrow morning across central, eastern and southeastern parts of Scotland. That also continues down this eastern side of the country as well. This is all part of the heat wave ending. It's all part of the heat wave going away as cooler and fresher air moves in from off the Atlantic. So you may get some big thunderstorms later on today across eastern parts of the country. Do take care if you do run into one of those storms while you're out and about, especially if you're driving. So have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. Then we're looking at Portsmouth down in the southwest of the country today, close to the south coast. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Portsmouth. We're starting off hot at the moment. There's the slide in the temperature. By tomorrow, we've actually gone cooler than average in terms of the upper air temperatures. And then we're a little bit up and down. So that push up in the temperature there for Sunday is associated with an area of low pressure. So it's a warm sector within a low pressure. You won't feel particularly much warmer on Sunday. Then it goes rather cool again to the early part of next week before the temperatures in the second half of next week are beginning to lift up once more. However, the GFS is backing away from this very extreme, potentially extreme heat wave that it was going for yesterday. And so are the other models as well. Now, in terms of precipitation, we do find we've got the wet weather coming up over the next couple of days, but from the start of next week and through next week, basically, we're looking at dry weather. So high pressure is still coming back next week. High pressure is still building back in. It will still be very warm and probably still hot, actually. But we are not seeing at the moment, anyway, we're not seeing the very, very hot outliers that we was getting yesterday within the GFS ensemble. Some members yesterday were going up to kind of like 20 degrees at 850 HPA, which would be enough, particularly after such a hot summer with the ground so dry. If we did get the 20 Celsius isotherm moving up across the UK, that would be enough to lift temperatures to 100 Fahrenheit, I think, this summer, because the ground is so hot, there's no moisture in it to cool things down. So it's almost like an oven effect. So if we did get some extreme upper air temperatures of 20 degrees at 850 HPA, I reckon there's a very good chance we would break the all-time UK temperature record of 38.5 degrees set in 2003. I think that would be under threat. But the GFS has backed away from that extreme heat. So whilst it will still be very warm, probably turning hot even through the second half of next week, maybe it's not going to be too bad. Maybe it's not going to be too alarming. There is still one very hot outlier member, that blue run just there. That's taking temperatures above 15 degrees at 850 HPA. But otherwise, a lot of these ensemble members now are closer to the 30-year average. But don't get me wrong, high pressure is still building in, and we are still looking at more very dry, very warm, potentially hot weather through this first week of August. Service temperatures at Portsmouth are looking like this. So we're up mid-20 Celsius. Now, remember, this undercuts the temperatures, so it's close to 30 degrees, really. The next couple of days actually go cooler and stays cool into the start of next week. Then, through the course of next week, there's a temperature picking back up once again, becoming very warm to hot, and then flatlining at that sort of level through the second week of August, this period just here. Temperature anomalies look like that. So from the 26th of July to the 3rd of August, still coming out hotter than average through all parts of Europe, really. Ireland cools down. So the Republic and Northern Ireland cooling down back to average there. That's the only place in Europe that you would say is average in terms of the temperature anomaly. Otherwise, just a sea of red. And temperatures anomalies for the UK, not as high as in some parts of Europe, actually. We're kind of like around 2 degrees above average, 1 to 2 degrees above average, whereas most parts of Europe are up here on the scale, sort of 6 to 8 or possibly even 10 degrees above average in some places. A very hot scene for the week ahead across much of Europe. Precipitation anomalies look like that. It's just a little bit more unsettled for northern and western parts of the country. A lot of that will be down to the rainfall we've got coming up this weekend, both in terms of the thunderstorms and then Sunday's more general wet weather. And I would expect to see these charts trending drier over the next few days. Most parts of Europe are coming out drier than average across central, western, southwest parts of Europe. The unsettled weather, wet than average conditions, looks like it's still, as has been all the way through the summer, in the east, and particularly this southeastern corner of Europe. So these are the generic charts then, and this is the GFS 850 HPA upper air temperature chart for today. So again, we've still got this very extreme heat on the east side of the country. That's the 15 Celsius isotherm just there. To the east of that, which is kind of like East Anglia, Southeast England, we're above 15 Celsius at 850 HPA, so that's why we are threatening, but probably won't reach, but threatening the hottest July day on record. This is the cooler air that's moving in across Ireland now. There's actually two fronts. There's one cold front that brings the initial push of cooler air, and then there's another cold front just there that brings an even more cooler mass of air from off the Atlantic. So a big gradient from west to east from the east part of England, Scotland over towards Ireland. Big temperature gradient today. Now, through the course of this afternoon and tonight, we find this cooler air gradually extends across the country. This is midnight, where the 15 Celsius isotherm is then beginning to leave the UK. It's starting to move out into the North Sea, and by 6 o'clock in the morning, we are swinging in this cooler, fresher air across Ireland, England and Wales. Still quite hot and muggy, even at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning across eastern Scotland down to eastern England. But through the morning, it continues to freshen up as those very high upper air temperatures are pushed away. So that's midday tomorrow when a much cooler, fresher air mass is heading in from off the Atlantic. It'll be a welcome relief, I think, for many people by the time we get through to tomorrow. That's the thundery low as well, but it's going to trigger some of the thunderstorms this afternoon. This next area of low pressure out in the Atlantic is Sunday's wet weather. We're between the two lows, and so we'll actually be bringing sunshine and showers through the course of tomorrow. And then sunny, it turns wet and windy. Look at this. This wouldn't look out of place sort of in October. So there will be a little bit of a taste of autumn in the air on Sunday, would you believe? Within 2 days, we've gone from near record-breaking heat, may even be record-breaking heat yet, we don't know completely whether we're going to break any temperature records this afternoon across East Anglia, South East England, but if we don't, we can certainly say it's near record-breaking levels today. Within 2 days, we've gone into a chart that wouldn't look that out of place at the end of September or into October. So it's turning wet and windy across the country on Sunday, and all you can say really is that only in the UK can we get this kind of very extreme sort of change within such a short space of time. So we could be seeing gusts of wind up to 50, possibly 60 miles an hour in the far west and southwest on Sunday afternoon. That's reaching gale force. And there'll be quite a lot of rain driving in with this area of low pressure as well. I wouldn't expect that much rain down in the extreme southeast. I think there the rain is likely to be quite sporadic. There will be some rain, but I wouldn't expect all that much. But from the Midlands, sort of north and west through to Wales, southwest England, up to northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, I would expect more substantial rain is likely there, possibly up to half an inch over some of the higher ground of the Welsh mountains, moors of southwest England, Cumbria, those sort of areas. Into the start of next week, stays quite unsettled in the north and west with more showers. In the southeast, I would suspect there is some showers getting through, but probably not all that many of them. So the drought doesn't really get broken for East Anglia and southeastern England, to be honest. And then we go through to the middle part of next week, and then the high pressure begin to re-establish itself. So although the GFS has backed away from those very high temperatures that it was forecasting for the second half of next week, we are still going with the idea that high pressure is building in again. So as we go through the week, it gradually turns more and more settled, which will be turning things warmer as well. So that's how things are looking by Friday next week. Friday, 3rd of August, a week away. High pressure's over top of the country. We're back to almost mainly dry conditions across the whole country, plenty of sunshine, and temperatures, whilst the upper air temperatures aren't notably hot, I think we will still be into the 80s Fahrenheit with that, so into sort of the mid to upper 20s Celsius, quite likely. And then that continues through the first weekend of August. This is Sunday the 5th of August, heading up towards day 10. High pressure is dominating the weather, so there'll be loads of dry weather, very warm conditions too, probably hot. Just not getting that high pressure into a position to pull up that very extreme heat that is down to the south. To do that, we've got to get the high pressure on the eastern side of us, where it is today, really, and probably get an area of low pressure out in the Atlantic again, and then we get the push up, we suck the hot air up from southern parts of Europe. That's how things are looking by day 10. The high pressure is over top of the country, so this is definitely going back to high pressure and very warm weather. But there's the upper air temperatures. You notice they aren't as hot as the upper air temperatures we've been dealing with just recently, although just up to the south and across southern France, Spain, Portugal, Bay of Biscay, we have got very, very extreme hot temperatures down there. So it's not that far away, and whilst GFS at the moment has sort of inched away from an extreme heat wave through the first week of August, don't write it off. It does need to be watched closely. We go into the more extended range, so again, high pressure continues to be dominating the weather on this GFS run anyway. Not pulling up that extreme heat, but it's certainly warm enough. It's certainly very warm to hot across most parts of the country. And we just keep the high pressure in control through to the end of the GFS run, which is sunny the 12th of August. Very warm, dry, sunny, fine conditions there. This is the ECMWF, it looks like that. So we've got wet and windy weather on Sunday. Stays fairly showery into the start of next week, but very gradually, same as with the GFS. The low pressure gets moved away, it sort of clears off, and we build the ridge back up from the southwest. So we end up with a lot of high pressure influences as we go through the second half next week, then into that first weekend of August. High pressure in control. It's mostly dry. It's warm to very warm, perhaps locally even quite hot. Just maybe suggested by day 10, but it's beginning to turn a little bit more unsettled perhaps. And then finally we've got the GEM, looks like that, wet and windy to end the coming weekend, and then we go through the start of next week looking quite showery, but it's not long before the high pressure's building back in. So there it is by the end of next week into the first weekend of August. High pressure is back, dominating weather, bringing lots of dry, warm to very warm, possibly even locally hot conditions. And then that high pressure continues up to day 10, which is Monday the 6th of August. It is, again, looking mostly dry, fine, and very warm. Let's just quickly finish off with the upper air temperatures. And they're very warm upper air temperatures. So, again, seeing temperatures probably approaching 30 degrees, I would have thought, with that, excuse me, underneath the high pressure. And it's just a continuation of the summer, really. The summer goes on. Whilst we may not get the extreme heat that we've had this week, it does look as though the trend overall next week is to get us back to high pressure quite quickly. At the very least, have a lot of dry and warm weather, if not very warm, potentially locally hot, I would have thought, by next weekend. In the meantime, some very, very lively weather coming up today. So we're near record-breaking heat. We've got intense thunderstorms breaking out as well. And then by the time we get through to Sunday, there'll be a taste of autumn in the air in the north and in the west too. Only in the UK can we see such tremendous changes in the weather in such a short space of time. Right, so that is brought you up to date with the shorter range, and also done the longer range stuff with JMA Friday. Just got ENSO to do next. We've got the ENSO update coming up for July. That'll be with you this evening. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.